Hi class. I'm gonna give a few notes on this week's items. There's a few of you guys that are doing not bad in the class, but you're struggling a little bit keeping up with the due dates. It's not that many of you. The vast majority of you are fine keeping up with the due dates, but there's a good about 10 of you in a class of 60 that are having a really hard time keeping up with the due dates. So just remember, the discussions are always going to be due on Friday. The quizzes are always going to be due on Sunday. That's the easiest thing I could tell you. But this is an accelerated course, 8 weeks, and it's accelerated for a reason. That's because they're trying to cram a typical 18-week semester into 8 weeks. It's not easy to do, but I try to make it as doable as possible. So if you guys just keep up the good work and make sure you're mindful of the due dates, check your mail every day. Don't let a day go by where you're not checking Canvas or your email. You should be fine. So anyway, let me get into a little bit of this. The corporation doctrine is applying all or some of the Bill of Rights to the states. So what that means is there were already laws put in the books, as far as the Constitution is concerned, right? So, like this one, for example, a literal reading of Congress shall make law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting free speech, or free establishment of religion rather, or prohibiting the exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of exercise thereof. Blah blah blah. It's a big sentence. So a literal reading of that definition suggests that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or whatever. Congress can make no law, but the states can make the law. So that's the most literal reading of that. So what had to happen was an incorporation doctrine to kind of say, well, that's not necessarily true. Congress, at the end of the day, is all powerful. What states can do is states can put their own twist on the laws. So say the gun law is one thing in California to get a concealed weapons permit or something like that. In Tennessee, it'll be something different, probably a little bit more relaxed on that. So you're not getting rid of the law because the federal law still applies. You still have the legal right to own a gun, but it's just going to be a little bit different depending on state to state. So Barron v. Baltimore is the case where the Supreme Court determined that the Bill of Rights restricted national government but not state government in this Gitlow versus Wainright overturns that decision. So Barron v. Baltimore is a case where the Supreme Court determined that the Bill of Rights restricted the national government but not state government. So Gitlow versus Wainright overturns that decision. Read on those in the notes. I'm not going to go through all of that, but the old precedent is Barron v. Baltimore, and then the new precedent is Gitlow versus Wainright. Laws are always about one precedent versus the next precedent. Like in Brown v. Board, for example, the original precedent was Plessy versus Ferguson. Before that, it was Dred Scott. So now Brown v. Board is the standard. When we look at most civil rights cases involving race and segregation and stuff like that, the courts will always go back to the precedent of Brown v. Board. So the law doesn't change magically overnight. It's just you now have a precedent that states, hey, segregation is unconstitutional, so it's going to make segregation unconstitutional in other areas, if that makes sense. If there is any kind of ambiguity to a law, it is up to the courts to clarify what the law is and what it states. So that's always the case with cases that go to the Supreme Court, is what is the law right now? What does the law state? And how do we figure out what the law is going to be? All right, so segregation, that was a bad law, so we need to get a law that says this or that. Gay marriage wasn't originally defined in the Constitution. I'm sure it was assumed that marriage is between a man and a woman, but that's not what it says. So the Supreme Court said that two adults, but whether they're the same sex or not, can get married. Now that's a federal law. Okay. All right, so the belief that all members of each race possess characteristics or abilities to the specific race, especially so as to distinguish it as inferior or superior to another race. This definition suggests that anybody can be racist. So this isn't the scholarly definition of racism, but this is, people use racist generically and kind of out of context. So this has kind of become a definition of racism. So it's technically acceptable, but not in scholarly. That was not the original definition. So, but that particular definition suggests anyone could be racist. All right. And the second definition, a system of group privilege by those who have a disproportionate share of society's power, prestige, property, and privilege. That definition suggests only people in a position of power can be racist. And that's the scholarly definition of racism. Racism always comes from a place of power. It comes from a place of you are at a higher advantage of me, or your lot in life is higher than mine, and you can use the fact that I am not black, I am not a man, whatever, to penalize me and hurt me. That's the true definition of racism. And that definition suggests only a powerful people could be racist. So it's like if someone didn't like me because I was black, and they weren't in a position of power to really do anything to hurt me, their racism isn't going to mean as much to me as, say, the president, who can make laws that hurt, minorities, if he's in that position. Or not just the president. It could be something as simple as, if you're in a position and if you're like a teacher or something like that, or a dean of a department, and you decided you didn't like black people, you can hurt me that way. Okay? So that's racism. And those are the two definitions. So get that right on the quiz. And achieved status is earned. Anything you achieve is something that you've earned. So if I even if it's something bad, so say I get into a bunch of wrecks in my car and I got my driver's license suspended, that's something that I've earned because I've gotten in too many reckless accidents, too many tickets. That's earned. That's an achieved status. Getting your driver's license to begin with is an achieved status. Graduating from college is an achieved status. Just going to college, period, is an achieved status because you've gotten from one level to the next. That's an achieved status. An ascribed status is something you can't help with. Me being black, I can't help. Me being born a man, I can't help. Notice I said born a man. I'm not talking about any kind of surgery. Being born what you are, that's not something you can help. Being born into the family that I was born into, that's not something I can help. Okay? Even if you were adopted by a family, that's still not something you can help. Your parents are the ones that put you in the family. All right, so that's an that's a scribe status versus a chief status. All right, feminism equals advocacy of women's rights. So that's all that is. Don't ignore all that other bull crap I put in there, like womanism. Womanism is a real term, but not for this exam, or for this quiz rather. And women's suffrage refers to a woman's right to vote. So those are just a few notes to kind of help you out this week. I'm sorry that I can't get any more clear. I'm sorry if I jumbled over my words a little bit, but I just wanted to make a video kind of outlining this week's stuff. So if you've got any questions, email me, text me, call me, whatever. I'm here for you. Holler.